Thank you for joining beside this very important keynote. We are from Swisscom, and we are going to talk about vRealize Automation Cloud. Swisscom is a service provider and provides virtual private cloud to its customer. The base is currently vRealize 7.x, and we are looking to move to the new version. So that's why I chose this picture. So we have here, I hope we can build with VMware a very safe pathway from one summit to the next. So let's go and introduce your speakers. So Fabian Haldimann is a cloud architect at Swisscom. We are working 4 years together. He is actually in the position of system architect for the cloud core. That's the team that is operating and developing from vSphere, NSX, V, and vRay. And he is very interesting to drive innovation. So he's always in the know what is happening. So that's why we are at VMware to get the latest news. And yes, I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniele. So Daniele Ulrich, it's a pleasure for me to have the talk with you. He is a very talented architect as well as software developer, and he has the talent to actually find solutions when people are out of ideas. You will see a lot of demos from him in this talk. So with that being said, I think we can kick off the presentation. I don't go into details of these slides. You have seen them very often during this presentation, but it helps us to promise you stuff that we don't have to keep in the future. So we did separate the presentation into 4 different areas. So first of all, we'd like to take the opportunity to talk to you what Swisscom is actually doing in that area. Then we are going to do a deep dive into vRealize Cloud, which is the same product as vRealize 8, which you might have on-prem. It is a pretty new topic, so my task in this presentation will actually be to build the foundation so that you will not be lost afterwards in the CI/CD demos of Daniele. So the next part will actually be us demoing how we're going to create projects and fill them with content. And at the end of the day, we try to do a wrap-up and hopefully answer some open questions you might have. As Daniel mentioned, Swisscom is the largest telco provider within Switzerland, but we don't just focus on telephones and TV streaming. We also have a very, very long history in IT. So we provide full outsourcing. We have multiple internal cloud offerings. We have different platforms for different use cases. We have a platform for SME customers based on vCloud Director. We have an enterprise service cloud targeted at SMI 500 customers based on vRealize, which is also the main driver why we had a look at vRealize Cloud. We have a pivotal application cloud, and we also have, of course, some container offerings. But we just don't focus on that. We also have teams that are specialized in AWS and Microsoft that can actually help our customers the journey to a multi-cloud world. And I guess the strength is that we can interconnect the old environments with the new ones. As I said, we have some professional service on top of that, and of course the main key area is the whole connectivity, also the interconnection between AWS, Azure, and our on-prem clouds, which at the moment customers will be able to do in a self-service manner based on a dashboard that we are providing. And of course, security is also a big pillar of Swisscom. With that being said, the marketing stuff is over. We can now go into the product. So why did we have a look at it? First of all, For us, it was very interesting to see on how VMware is evolving the whole SaaS-first approach. And for us as a service provider, this brings challenges, so we wanted to have a look at that. The other main driver was we have a very huge VRA 7.x installation, and how can we then migrate to VRA 8? What we did is we invested in the whole multi-cloud and governance story. We did some heavily investment in time to the product, and we are also able to drive the feature of it. And of course, one of the big challenges that we see is the service provider readiness. There we still have some work to do together with VMware to get that up and running as we want. And this is the main thing. The whole partnership between VMware and Swisscom is very, very nice. So we are part of the CTAB. We are in Design Partnership Program. And this is very much appreciated, and we hope we can shape the product in the right direction for us. Now, I try to explain you the main pillars of VRA Cloud. So there are actually more or less 3 different services that have different focus. The first one is actually Cloud Assembly. This is the tool that is more cloud admin focused, and also this is the tool where you actually will create your blueprints with the given YAML language. Through Cloud Assembly, you can then deploy to multiple cloud accounts or cloud zones, which I will present to you afterwards. Then the next service that is exposed is the VMware Service Broker. This is the service catalog, which is actually more in the consumer focus, so there users will be actually able to consume the blueprints that you created. You can expose them. You can also expose extensibility actions and workflows, which is actually pretty powerful. The whole SaaS story is not 100% there yet, but we're getting there. And one cool thing is also you can integrate natively AWS CloudFormation templates, which you can then use to deploy AWS native services. So this is a very interesting tool focused on the consumer. Now, the tool that mainly Daniele will be presenting you is CodeStream. CodeStream is targeted at the DevOps, infrastructure pipelines, code pipelines. With that, you can push your code through different zones or stages that you might have. We try to make it easy for the demos. We will have 2 demos prepared for you today. So the tabs should get color-coded. So the green one will be Cloud Assembly, Service Broker blue, and CodeStream red. And you should find them, if stuff will not log out, you should also find them represented then in the browser, so it's easier for you to get the context. Now let me try to explain to you the fundamentals of Cloud Assembly. So we actually have, let me just get the laser pointer here. So we have the notions of cloud accounts, where we can have the regular vSphere or VMC on AWS integrated. There are some cloud accounts for NSX and NSXT, so you can actually consume, for example, security groups, and hopefully in the future much more. If those endpoints are not exposed to the internet, you then deploy some cloud proxy so that VRA Cloud is actually able to connect to. And if I did not mention it, I will do it again. So this is a SaaS offering, so it's based on the VMware Cloud directly. You can also have the same tool on-prem, and then of course you don't need the cloud proxy at all. If you want to do native cloud, there's also pretty big support for Azure, AWS, and GCP, and you can actually connect them to the system. So the first thing that we have to do is create the cloud accounts. Out of those cloud accounts, we will going to create some cloud zones. Those cloud zones are actually carving out some of the resources we just added with the cloud accounts. Then a very important abstraction is actually the whole image mapping. There you can define, for example, your Ubuntu image, and then you link it to the on-prem templates that you might have, or the AMIs at AWS, so that you as a developer, you only have to reference Ubuntu, for example. Then the next level of abstraction is the whole flavor mapping. There you can define the sizing, so that, again, it makes it very easy for you. You just define small, and in the flavor mapping, you are defining the sizes on the corresponding cloud providers or infrastructure where you want to use that. Then you have some optional components that help you be more specific. We have network profiles. There you define actually which networks are available. You can also define security groups where you want the VMs to be placed in. And another component are storage profiles. There you can define, for example, to which data store you want to be able to deploy if it's on vSphere. You can define if it's eager6, SYN, you name it. So this will help you. You can also define the IOPS limits or the tier that you actually want to have. So with that being said, you have kind of your infrastructure. Now you have to provide that access to your developers, and you do that through a so-called project. And in the project, you actually map those resources where you can then deploy to. The project is also the scope of the blueprint, and then you can actually assign it to a project, or you can share it across all the projects and make that then happening. There's other very powerful concept within vRA Cloud. This is the integrations. So for example, you can integrate source control. So no longer you have to have your blueprints within vRA locally. You can have them externally, and they will get synced accordingly. So there you have support for GitLab and GitHub. Then config management is a pretty cool and exciting new thing. So you have support for Ansible open source and Puppet Enterprise. So you can actually deploy a VM. You can assign it to Puppet role, and then the software you want to have on that specific instance will actually be managed by Puppet and Ansible and not directly through vRA. Then the whole container story is pretty well covered with vRA Cloud. You have a native PKS integration, so you can actually expose plans, and then through those plans you can create Kubernetes clusters. And in the blueprints you can then create Kubernetes namespaces. So this is one way how containers are integrated. Or if you have an external existing Kubernetes cluster, you can also add them to vRA Cloud and then just create namespaces on top of those. And this could be EKS or AKS, you name it. Then there are some integrations regarding IPAM. At the moment that's Infoblox, and also keep in mind that vRA Cloud already has a lot of IPAM functionality out of the box. And if you need to join or add to some some Windows-based workload, you have the AD integration. And the famous VMware integration is mainly used so you get access to the marketplace. Good. So this is it from the resource point of view. Now let's get to another very exciting topic in vRA Cloud, or a fundamental concept. And this is the whole tagging. So what you actually can do is you can, on all those cloud zones, you can define some constraints. On the cloud zones, you create some capability tags. So for each resource, you can create multiple tags. They have all the same notion, so it's a key and a value. You can tag the corresponding profiles. And then within your blueprint or within your project, you can then define some constraints. They can be either hard or soft. So with soft, the system is trying to fulfill them. If they are hard, it's a hard requirement. And if there are nothing is fulfilling that requirement, it will actually not be deployed. So this then goes also to, it's a two-way street. Those tags that you can also create tags on the resources. So by default, vRA Cloud is creating a lot of those tags on the systems. Then you can correlate actually back that information to a CMDB, or for example to a backup system. If that's not integrated with vRA Cloud yet, and the backup tool is able to read vSphere tags, for example, you can leverage that to define a backup policy. What is also important, the vRA Cloud is also importing existing tags on the cloud providers or on vSphere, And you can leverage those tags as well, for example, to do onboarding of existing deployed VMs, which was a pain to do within VRA 7 and is much easier now with VRA Cloud. But what I want to highlight, or what we did find within the time we did work with the product, is it's very important that you, within your company, you define your tagging strategy. Do you want to go for stages, dev, int, prod, for regions, or a combination of it? This is very, very important, and you have to align on that, because otherwise your blueprints will not be portable. Now let's dig a little bit deeper how the placement policy is kind of working based on the information I just provided to you. So this is an example of a blueprint which is part of a project. There you can define some constraints. For example, this one is asking for environment production. And I have a constraint on the project that says, hey, the public provider is actually not supported. And then placement engine is going through all the tags of the given cloud zones available and will most likely place this VM on the vSphere environment and not of the ones that have the tag provider public. Now, that has been already a very important part of the product with VRA 7 is the whole extensibility. And this has been improved again. So the system has multiple lifecycle events that you will see afterwards in the demonstration. And you can actually create subscriptions where you are tying an event listener and you define a runnable. And there, with the new product, we have a lot more flexibility that we had with VRA 7.5. For example, in 7.5, you were kind of tied to VRO workflows only, where you can only use JavaScript, and this is not appealing to all developers. So you can still use VRO if you use it and you like it, that's not a problem. But there is now much more up-to-date feature which is actually called Actions or ABX. And with that you can actually consume existing Lambda or Azure functions. And something that came out a few months ago is also very cool. I don't know if you ever heard of the OpenFast project. You can actually integrate that. For that you have to download the extensibility proxy, and then OpenFast is running on that appliance. And then you can run your Python or Node.js code on top of that. So you have much more options. The other way you can actually consume those is you can export the workflows and the actions through Service Broker. That's actually pretty cool and exciting new stuff. We, as Swisscom, we would actually like to work with infrastructure as code. That's how we worked the last few years. And we want to continue to work with that. And it makes it actually much more easier with the new product, as some components do have some native Git support out of the box. And here's just an overview what we've achieved so far, and you should be able to see it in the demo soon. So, for example, we can sync blueprints and actions from Git. This will be actually part of something that I'm going to show you. We can also create this extensibility subscription that I've just mentioned. We can delete projects. And what we are currently working on is actually that we can create organizations on demand. For that, we need actually support in the cloud model from Cloud Provider Hub to support us that functionality. Otherwise, we always have to go through VMware that our customer's organization would get created. Then we want to create the cloud accounts and the cloud zones automatic based on a Git hook. And the whole tagging strategy that I just mentioned, that all the given cloud zones, networks, network profiles, storage profiles get tagged accordingly. And we are also developing for 2020, we hope we can offer you or our customers a service that is more related to actually multi-cloud and not just hybrid cloud use cases. With that being said, I would show you the demo. Maybe Daniele, if you could unlock your computer that I actually can do that would be fantastic.
Do you need a mouse?
No, I just need the login.
Okay.
In the meantime, do you have any questions so far regarding that? Also for the vRealize 7.x people in the room, projects would be organization would be the same as a tenant, and the project would be corresponding to a business group, so that you just have the context. Good. So let me show you what I just tried to explain you in the slides within the UI itself. So there's the infrastructure part in Cloud Assembly, where actually a lot of the stuff that I just explained to you is actually visible. So for example, in this organization, we have multiple cloud accounts, some AWS, some vSphere, some VMC, Azure, you name it. Then based on those, you carve out your resources. You will actually create your cloud zones. And here you see we do tag them more or less equally on all the same way. We decided to define the provider where this account is actually running physically, so we can do the steering accordingly. Then a very important thing is the whole image mappings. For example, this is the Ubuntu use case I've just mentioned. With that, we are actually able to just use Ubuntu, and here we define actually what it is relating to. And maybe in your environment, don't mix too many OS versions as we did in this demo environment for you. Good. The integrations would also be something that I would like to show you. So this is the OpenFast provider that I've just mentioned. This is a VRO1 and the corresponding GitHub integration. Good. Then I would also show you the extensibility part that I've just mentioned. And at the moment, we see there are no actions, and there are actually no subscriptions available. So now let's change that through some API calls. All right, just give me a second to find the create project one.
No, you want to...
Yeah, the VMC demo, this one.
Can you check if the variable is correct? I didn't check that. Wait, sorry. This was maybe my mistake here. Yes, this is okay.
All right. So what I try to do right now is actually creating a project through REST call. We created a wrapper that is actually then doing some API calls against VRA. What I show you here is more the provider use case, but it might also be interesting for you if you want to create a project at scale. For example, if you have a model where each project is an application, then you would also have hundreds of applications in your environment. Just let me grab the ID of this. Good. Now, if you go back to infrastructure, you see there was no project before. Now we have a VMC demo project. So that looks actually pretty good. I'd like to go to Service Broker. And in Service Broker also the catalog is now being pushed with that API wrapper that we've created. And now I can show you a small demo on how we can actually deploy VMs across those multiple providers. So I can choose here with actually one input, and I can show you afterwards how easy that is within the Blueprint Designer. You can choose where this VM will be placed. For example, let's pick GCP. And now what actually happens, there are some deployments that are triggered, and those VMs will actually get created on the given cloud provider that we defined. You see, Blueprint is the Blueprint that I'm demoing is very easy. It's just a network, and then it's a VM that is attached to it. You should actually see the IP addresses that is assigned to that VM, and if the timing is okay, this VM should also be available on AWS. So this is the instance that we've just created. Okay, so this is the end user view. It's pretty easy. Now let's get back a little bit into Cloud Assembly, which is more the developer tool. For example, the VMC demo blueprint. You see here, this is the one that is actually created by Git. So this is a little bit more complex blueprint, but still pretty relatively easy. So we have two networks, and we have some VMs that are attached to the network, and the constraints are actually defining where those VMs will be placed. And yeah, here I could actually update something, so I have to give the version. To define the password I want to use. Of course, you can also inject SSH keys if you want to do something more sophisticated there. So this one is also deploying. So let me see where we currently are with that stuff. So we have a VM on AWS, for example. Where is it? You see also here the tags that I've just mentioned. So you see you can do a lot of correlation because VRA Cloud is already pushing that information through tags to the VMs. It is also relatively easy to update that information. Sorry. You have to select you can update the tags. And as you can see, this tag also gets pushed down to the VM. So this is pretty cool stuff. Let me talk to you a little bit about extensibility. So by the Git sync, we also imported a lot of actions. They are you can create either Node.js code or Python code. It's pretty cool. And if you have subscriptions, which I didn't create yet, that's a good thing. So I missed that, sorry for that. We actually wanted to do some subscriptions on the project. And yeah, actually now my demo falls apart a little bit because I've expected that the subscription would already be here, so you could actually see that the whole compute pre-provision and reservation events would have been fired. But lucky enough, Daniel will show something similar, and you will be actually able to consume them afterwards. I also wanted to show you is actually the VMC part of you. So this is the VM that has been created on top of VMC. And VMC for us as a local Swiss provider might be very important to reach global reach. So we could, wherever we need a vSphere environment, we can actually deploy it through VMC. But that's what I wanted to show you around that topic. And let me get back to VRA to actually start deleting some of the stuff. So in the demo that I've showed you, you also saw multiple ways how you can interact with VRA Cloud or all those three services that VRA Cloud is consisting of. We have seen the UI, you have seen the REST API, and there's also a small CLI where you can also use to interact. So for example, you can actually see all the projects. It used to be faster. Okay, at least it's collaborating with me. So you see, we have the one project that we have been created. We can also see the deployments, which at the moment we should actually see the one deployment that is still running. The others are deleting. And let me destroy. Sorry, guys.
Deployment destroy, I think. Destroy, yeah.
And the VMOP test, and then we can force it. Sorry, guys. I think I find myself now in a few seconds. I think something changed here, sorry for that. So I'm going to delete it through this one here. Now, the project is at the moment still having a deployment assigned to it, so I cannot delete it directly. But just until we wait until everything is deleted and Daniela can then start with a fresh environment, I just want to show you what you can actually do here. So you can assign users with given roles to the project. And you can also add the cloud zones accordingly. So here you actually define also to where the stuff will be deployed to. And we can define here some tagging. We can define the constraints I was talking about. We can add custom properties. And what is also very important is the whole naming of the stuff. You could actually define a template here. So now let me see if the delete has been done already. It's still in progress. I think we can wait for it.
The next slide with
the next slide.
Yes.
Yes, this is actually the overview of all the components and how they are interconnected together. So you see, again, the cloud accounts, cloud zones, the projects, and how everything is interconnected there. So I think, Daniele, from the timing perspective, we have to do the switch over. Otherwise, you might be in some timing problems. I used a little bit more time than expected.
No problem. Yeah, let it run. Okay. So before I can explain so it's my part now, so we're going to demo CI/CD. And before I can give you some overview, that would be the overview, I want to start the demo, because this will take some time. So I will go and play the role of the developer. I have two projects. The one is called DSC Event Subscriber, and the other one is called Open Service Broker ESC. What I'm doing now is checking in some changes, minor changes. I don't want to get in some risks here. I give a commit message, commit and push. Then I go to the ESC event subscriber. So commit and push. What I'm expecting now is that this will be called by a webhook. So Cloud Assembly. Oh, we have a lot of Cloud Assemblies now. CodeStream should see this commit. You see, these are these two commits. And CodeStream will then start to work. So we have pipelines. And for each of these projects, I have a pipeline. So this is not executing yet. It will take about 7 minutes until it really gets interesting. So that's the time for me to give you some overview. So Swisscom is a service provider, and unlike other companies, we have for each customer, we will have an own organization. So what in vRealize 7X was a tenant, is in vRealize 8 is the organization. Then one organization will be, I think that's a better one here. Huh? One organization will be held by Swisscom, and for each our customers we will have N organizations. What we want to achieve is now to have a clear build environment where we can develop our blueprints. So that's the step that I did here. My Eclipse, I committed it to Git, and on our build environment, so CodeStream is now running in a dedicated vCenter environment where we have Jenkins, Docker, and PKS. So we leverage these build tools to do our automated builds. What the developer should do is create and edit YAML files. That was one of our most important goals against VMware, that we want to have everything in Git. No, unlike it was in vRealize 7.x, where you had this painful export-import stuff. And that's why I call it developer's paradise, because they went quite a mile with this goal. So then when it's built and tested, we want to do some integration testing. So we will have another organization, or it could be a dedicated test project. The isolation is much better in vRealize Cloud than it was in vRealize 7. So it would be possible to do this in the same organization. Then we would do our build and test automation, and would then define what can be pushed to the production. And in the end, these defined releases would be then delivered safely to our customers. Again, these would be the same build tools in our dedicated build environment, and we would have to deploy cross organizations. That is the special thing here. Now, about these two applications. The ESC event subscriber is an application that is listening to the events. So you have your subscriptions. You have seen the code of the action previously. This is simply pushing, posting a JSON event to this application. This application will then have an event handler. It's written as a Spring Boot application, and it's Dockerized and then run on a PKS cluster. What it does, if a certain event comes, like provision post, then we know a VM was created, gets its IP, has a name, we know what type it is and which cloud. Then we can do a lot of things with this information. You have heard we target SME 500 enterprises. They have a lot of other IT infrastructure. They want to have an integration in their DNS, in their CMDB, in their ITSM tools, and that's what we are offering them. So everything that gets created or destroyed will be notified. I've created a small demo app. So this will be here the front end. It's built in with Clarity, Angular framework from VMware, and will show you the events. The second application will be an open service broker. By the way, I've written some blogs on these topics with a lot of details what this does exactly, the open service broker. So if you are not familiar with the concept, I don't want to go into the details here, but it's basically an adapter to convert open broker specification to VRA Cloud API. So now let's have a look where we are. This process. This is a live demo. I'm not sure if everything works. My tests were very good in the last days, but yeah. Open Service Broker is completed. The event subscriber is still building here. Now I can go to the nice jump host that we have. Find the right window. This is also code stream, still logged in, okay. Now we can go here to the pipeline, to the first build, and then I can connect to Jenkins. This is not reachable over internet. That's the reason why I have to go on our VMC jump host. There we have a VPN connection to our backend. So this would be the build, and this is running now. So you see, this is nothing special. This is a normal Jenkins build, and here we are pushing the Docker image. We have a quite slow internet connection. Yes, this is scandal. It's our cloud lab, an outpost in Sunnyvale, so in the States, and there we don't have a really good internet connection. So let's go back to explain that here. Let's have a look at the pipeline itself. We go to the pipeline. What's this pipeline like? Also, this is very detailed described in my blogs. So you see we have two stages, they call it in CodeStream. So this is the dev stage and the in stage. You can have serial tasks or parallel tasks. If you want to start something at the same time, you can add parallel tasks. Each task has a certain type, but now let's look at the whole plan. We just build it, we delete the Kubernetes deployment, we create the deployment, we wait until the service is available. I didn't implement blue-green deployment. This will be for the next demo. And then in the end deployment, this will be the step where we go on the environment of our customers. And we would do exactly the steps that Fab has shown you. Also create project, create subscription, and then we test the environment. We would create a VM per cloud zone that we have configured to see that everything works. This step is then a mail that comes to the deployment manager and would allow you to go with manual testing. So you have a test environment ready for manual explorative testing, and then you could do additional thing that is not automated yet. And at the end, you would do a delete. So everything that you have created would be then deleted. So we have these kind of types, task types. So the most important I use here is Jenkins. Then we have this Kubernetes types. Here you have basic commands, apply, create, delete, and here you have the Kubernetes YAML. And the very interesting one is called CI task. Here you basically give a CI build image for a Docker host, and then you can execute everything that you like. So if you have a CI build image that supports Bash, then you can do Bash scripting or whatever you like. So you see here all these types of tasks that are possible. You see it's quite a range. Okay, now it's creating projects. Now I have prepared something. This would be the front end. And I should have a small change now in the front end. If I go and refresh it, I should see a different UI. Slightly different. That you see that I have changed something. Now you see that we have a link and we have here an icon. Now these are the two views that I told you as a test app. So here I'm working with server-sent events. These views will automatically update, and once an event is received, then you will see it on the screen. Once a VM is registered, you will see it in the CMDB. That's the plan, at least. Let's look where we are here. So create subscription. Now it's running the integration tests. So it should be that we see here in a minute or so yeah. Now you see it will pop up here. These are the deployments that are automatically created. So on GCP, on AWS, on different regions, for each of them, there is an automatic deployment. On the other side, now this takes a little while because these functions have to be deployed, and I will show you afterwards the execution time. So that will be one of the problems that we have here. Once again, there are lifecycle events, pre-allocation, pre-reservation, pre-provisioning, post-provisioning, stopping, starting. You can listen to all these kind of events, what you are doing with the VM. And we have a subscription for all these events. So if we go here, we will see. Here is subscribed, and if we go to action runs, we should see events popping in here. You see, and that's why we are waiting now, because they are deploying currently. And that is one of the problems with function as a service, that sometimes you can get into race conditions, like it's looking here. So this would be the normal case, where it's already completed, and then you see you have different execution times here. This one is 10 seconds, this one is only half a second, and both do the same. And this makes it a little bit hard. You need to have some kind of timestamp to correlate the events to the actual time. So let's see what is going on here. So these two are already done, and these are already deleted. So let's see if, now you see something is happening. I have received these events. And here is the CMDB with the machines, keeping track of the machines, and with a little delay, as I explained it to you. So from this 5 machine, one is still marked as up and running. Now it's gone. Now let's look at the events. You will see it. If an event pops in, it goes to the top of the list, and if you look at the timestamps, you will see. Thank you. You will see that it's not in the right order. So this 1452 was popping up too early. So I have 5 minutes left. I want to take your questions. If you have a question, please wait until the microphone. Yeah. Thank you. Can you wait? Sorry.
How was the migration from the 7.7x to 8.0 from on-premise to on-cloud? Did you have the solution before, or did you exploit 7x before?
You are asking if we already did it.
The migration, yes.
Yeah, the integration to migration or integration. So you mean to use vRealize 7 with vRealize 8?
Did you have working solution on automation 7x and moved it to 8.0, or you're just doing some kind of proof of concept at the moment?
So, yes, we still are on 7.5.x to answer your question. To move the on-prem version to 8.x, I think we have to wait another 1 or 2 releases. There are, for example, the multi-organization is not supported on-prem yet. But we are doing, we want to do an offering that is outside of 7.x for customers that are actually willing to have a cloud-based CMP. That is a kind of separated project so that we will be ready at the end of the year to actually migrate to 8.2. It probably most likely will be, based from the feature set and the roadmap we have seen together with VMware. So at the moment, I cannot tell you how the migration works because we didn't do it, but imagine there's an API change and there are some new models, so this will not be the easiest one. VMware is working on an assessment tool, there's an assessment tool which tells you if your workflows are green or not. And this tool will also be able to migrate you to 8.0 if everything is green. If you have a little bit more complex use cases that we have, most likely you have to refactor your code, and most likely also want to refactor your code to reuse the new capabilities of the tool, if that is answering your question.
So we have 30,000 lines of code in vRealize, and one of the biggest challenges is that API is completely changed from vRealize 7 to vRealize 8. So you can imagine what this means. So this is quite a heavy lift. Other questions? Thank you. Okay, then we do a quick wrap up. Huh?
Yes. I hope we can give you a feeling on how the new tool works and how it's integrating. Sorry for not all demos being flawless, but yeah, this is the risk of having live demos. But you have seen what's capable, the services it consists of. And as I said, Swisscom will invest in the technology. And we are actually convinced that it's going into a much better direction as it was with the old tool, actually. It's much more developer-friendly with the whole Git integrations, and there are also some Terraforms provider available that will actually help you to have your infrastructure as code vision, if you share the same as we do, to actually implement that with you. I think with that being said, if there are no further questions, we really would like to thank you for your time. I hope it was informative for you, either as a developer or as an infra guy, to see the whole multi-cloud capabilities, CI/CD capabilities, service catalogs. And with that, I think we can close the session, right, Daniel?
And don't hesitate to contact us in case of further questions or if we can support you. And I think a lot of companies will have this challenge, and we have to do it together. Would be great.